Hello, it is the 3rd of January and we are doing another Clues by Sam. This one's a hard difficulty challenge. I don't know very much about it, except I do know that at least one person who normally does relatively well on these took almost 20 minutes. So we'll have to see if we can beat that. Let's make a start. Only one of the 3 innocents in row 5 is Olaf's neighbour. So that means that it's one of these two, and then we have 2 innocents here. Tina is one of 2 criminals in column D. So Tina's a criminal, then we have one more criminal in this pile. Exactly 1 innocent below Flora is neighbouring Ivan. So there's 1 innocent, which means that there's also 1 criminal in that pair, and this one is also innocent. Flora is also innocent. So that's helpful. There's an equal number of innocents in rows 1 and 2. So we have at least 2 innocents in row 1, at least 2 innocents in row 2, but we don't know anything more than that. Erwin is one of 10 innocents on the edges. So at the moment we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, meaning there's 3 innocents in this set over here. I don't have an easy way to keep a reminder of that, so we'll just keep that in memory as best we can. Uma has exactly 2 innocent neighbours. Well, if there's... Hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's only 1 criminal in this pile. Uma has exactly 2 innocent neighbours, which means that... at most one of these 2 can be innocent. Well, they can both be innocent, and then Penny would be a criminal. Out of clues, which is alarming. I can see where the difficulty has come from. So, we have 1 criminal there. 1, yep. Uma has exactly 2. So, what we are being told is that with just the information that there is 1 innocent here, 1 innocent here, 3 innocents here, that is enough for us to make a judgment and make a call on who is criminal or innocent. So, Uma has exactly 2 innocent neighbours. So there's 2 in this pile here. There's 3 in this pile here. There's 1 here, 1 here. So, if we make the assumption, let's clear tags so that we can work from the bottom. If we start off with the assumption that Uma is in fact the innocent here, and Vince is a criminal, then innocent, innocent. Can we make any judgments based on that? Not really. No. So we'll just keep that in mind that those 3 were innocent together. So similarly, if we say that Uma is criminal, Vince is innocent, we still have 1 left over here. Doesn't tell us much. If we say that Olaf is the criminal, then we know that these 3 would have to be innocent. Vince and Penny would have to be innocent, which makes Uma a criminal. Which, again, I don't think tells us much, although it is interesting that having either of them be... No, it's... Yeah, having either of these... No. Not anything that tells me anything of value. So... Actually, there's an equal number of innocents in rows 1 and 2. Is interesting because it implies that if Barb is innocent, then that means that this whole row is also innocent. Which means that Nancy would be the criminal. And then we've got one criminal down there, one criminal there. Meanwhile, if Barb is criminal, then we know that these three have to be innocent. We know there has to be at least one. There's one criminal in there. Again, it feels like there should be something we can do with this, and I'm not quite seeing it yet. Equal number of innocents in rows 1 and 2. 1 over 3 innocents in row 5. 1 innocent below Flora. 2 criminals in column D. Would be convenient if it was this, but then I don't know that tells us anything useful. Actually, one thing it does tell us, for certain, for dead certain, is that it cannot be this. It cannot be this, or it cannot be that Gary is the criminal. Because if Gary was a criminal, then that would mean that we've already failed Tina's clue. So Gary has to be innocent. We have to know that for sure. Barb could be criminal or innocent. There's an equal number of criminals in rows 2 and 5. That's interesting because we know that there is one criminal in row 5, which means there's one criminal in row 2, which means there's one criminal in row 1. So Barb has to be a criminal. Unhelpful. Unhelpful. Although, really? Okay, no. So, we know that there's a criminal in this row. We know that there's a criminal in this row. Actually, because we have the criminal laid out here, we know that these two are innocent. Each column has at least 3 innocents, and only one column has exactly 2 criminals. So, we know that D is the column with exactly 2 criminals, which means every other column has 1 criminal or 0 criminals. At most 1 criminal. We know that because Barb is a criminal in column A, Uma must be innocent, which means Vince must be criminal. So... an equal number of innocents in row 1 and 2, equal number of criminals in row 2 and 5. So there's 1 criminal in this row. Uma has exactly 2 innocent, and Penny's an innocent. We don't know that there's only 1 criminal in row 4, but I feel like actually we might be able to make a judgment call on that. So, well, we know that these two have to be innocent because there is no... there can't be another criminal in that column. Exactly 1 cop has a criminal directly above them. Thanks. Okay. Well, we know that these two have to be the same. This one has to be different. We know there's 1 criminal in there. We know there's 1 criminal in this row. Row 1 and 2. And at most 1 criminal in this column. Exactly 1 cop is a criminal directly above them. So it would be convenient if it was Nancy, because then we can go, okay, Nancy, Jason is criminal, Nancy is innocent, Mary is innocent, Ivan is innocent. And then we just need to work out what Steve is up to. But I don't think we can quite make that call. If it were the other way around, if we said that Jason is innocent, Nancy is a criminal, Ivan is a criminal, Mary is innocent, Steve... does that mean that Mary always has to be innocent? Hold on. I think it does, because either Nancy has the criminal above her in Jason, or if Nancy is the criminal, Ivan has to be the criminal, which means that Mary has... yeah, Mary has to be innocent either way. There's an odd number of innocents neighbouring Nancy. So we know that there is 1, 2. There has to be an odd number, which means Steve has to be innocent. There are more criminals in row 2 than in row 3, which means it has to be 1 and 3. So it has to be criminal, innocent, innocent, and that's time. How long did that take? I'm gonna try and avoid bragging about it. But yeah, no, that was definitely a tough one. I think there's definitely some stuff that had to be worked with. I would not have. It took a while to work out that Barb was actually where we were meant to go next after we found after we found Flora and Olaf, because that was a surprise, but it was actually quite interesting in how that played out. So yeah, sometimes it's not about who you've already tagged as like a 50-50 or a whatever. Sometimes you just have to find where actually we have more information to work with than we think. But thank you everyone for watching. I hope you learned something useful. I know I did. And I will be back tomorrow.